Do you feel overwhelmed or maybe even a bit intimidated to homeschool high school? Yeah, I did too, but not anymore. I have graduated 5 kids who have gone on to do universities and different careers, and I have one left, and I want to share everything I've learned. So stay tuned and we're going to walk this through together. And by the end of this video, you are going to feel confident in your decision to homeschool high school. Hi, I'm Nancy Marie Peterson. I've been homeschooling for over 20 years. Before I was a mom, I was actually in the education field. I've been in the education field for technically 35 years. I have a degree in psychology and teaching and a master's in education, but all that did not make me feel confident when I walked into homeschooling high school. Now, I thought I'd just homeschool the first few years and get them off, in the elementaries, and totally had that down. The idea of homeschooling high school completely intimidated me. But here I am 20 years later, and I have successfully homeschooled 5 graduates. I have one left, and I want to share everything I have learned over these years with you so you can feel confident too. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. No matter where you are in the stage of homeschooling, whether your child is about to become a high schooler or you're still before that or you're already near the end of the high school years, it's okay. I'm going to walk you through this. I felt so unsure of myself when my oldest daughter went to high school. I wasn't ahead of it. I realized you kind of start working your way from the beginning of teaching, and then when you get older kids, you start kind of going the backwards. I'm like, okay, if they're going to graduate at 12th grade, what do they have to have done before the next year, the next 2 years? And so I remember vividly walking that out. And I want to just simplify this for you. I'm going to give you detailed oriented steps to follow, but I just want to hit the basic highlights. I have to first of all share, not to brag, but I want to share that you are getting someone who's actually realistically done this. I was watching some of their YouTube videos, and I'm watching a plethora of them, and they were all starting with, their daughter's 9th grade, and they're just starting high school, and they've been in high school for 2 years. I have successfully graduated 5 children. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. I didn't do it perfect, so I'm not coming across saying, oh, watch me, I'm perfect. Nope. But I did learn along the way. I made mistakes, and we learned, and we grew, and we got better each time. And that's what I want you to learn from my mistakes, my wisdom, my resources, all of it I want to hand to you. So let's just start at the very beginning. When my oldest daughter was going into high school, I really wasn't sure what path they were going to take. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She was in 9th grade, and she wasn't really sure what path she wanted to take. And so we weren't really sure what direction to do homeschooling. We were doing different curriculums, and I'm not going to get into curriculums right now, but we were doing different curriculums that worked for us. So as we went through that process, we kind of mapped out how we're going to get to the end. Well, midstream, we decided we were going to do a program called Run and Start, which is dual credits. Now, whether you decide to do dual credits or not, don't turn me off, just stick with me because I'm going to give you lots of different options. But for her, we looked into the possibility of doing dual options with our homeschooling. That's where you get college credits while they're still in high school. And in our state, Washington State, you could take classes and they would get the high school credit, and you would graduate with actually their associates in arts degrees. My 5 kids have all graduated from high school with an associates of arts degree. They got their 2-year degree and then went on to different avenues. So we started the process. We were newbies, and they didn't have a lot of homeschoolers doing that program at the time, and a lot of high schoolers were, and they weren't really successful. Honestly, I didn't know how well I had done as a homeschool mom. I was like, this is my report card. Did I fail her, or is she going to be successful? So she was successful, but her hard work got her successful too, obviously, not all me. So we looked into the program for the dual enrollment, and we first of all went through online classes only. So this is a little disclaimer in here. I'm not an advocate of putting your high schooler, 16-year-old, 17-year-old in with a bunch of adults. That is not what we did, and that's not what I advocate for. I do advocate if you have the opportunity to do online schooling at home, that is exactly what we did and how we walked it out. We did some courses at the community college. My children have CLEPT classes. That's where you take a test and you test out of certain classes and you just get the credits for it. There's different ways to do it. There's not just one way. So there's different colleges, and I've linked in the description. You'll find a freebie workbook, a planner for you to walk all this out. And I have all the different places that you can. There's several different that I researched colleges that allow you to do this while they're in high school and they're Christian. That is an option to go through if you're interested in it. But how do you get started? If you're going to start homeschooling, how do you get started this high school process? The first thing you want to do is come up with just a 4-year plan. It needs to stay flexible because kids change, their ideas change, their interests change. And you have to remember, homeschooling is bigger than just this academic piece. We get the privilege to walk these teens to adulthood. And that's what you're looking at, even the bigger picture than the academic picture. You're looking at walking your teenager into adulthood and helping them be successful in whatever God has for them next. And that's the exciting part. And that's what I have gotten the privilege to do. And watching your adult kids thrive and walk into their calling is priceless. I mean, it's just amazing. All the hard work that you put in is so worth it. So there's 5 steps to a successful homeschool high school. So we're going to talk about some of your requirements. We're going to talk about options. We're going to talk about having a plan. We're going to talk about how to organize that plan and how to think forward in the future. Education is more than academics. It is the shaping of their character, their faith, and their future. So the first thing, you want to know your requirements for your state. So you're going to go to your state, and I love AI now. You just put it in there. Hey, it's Washington State. What are the guidelines to graduate? And I just looked it up last night or a couple nights ago. I've graduated 5 kids, but it's been a few years or a year now. They changed that program. And so I was like, oh, there's a new thing that we have to jump through, a new hoop. So you want to familiarize yourself with your state recommendations and requirements and guidelines and all that. That's the first thing you need to do, is figure out what do they need to have. Then you can look at the HSLDA. That is a homeschool legal defense, and they will give you different requirements as well. Look at if they want to go into a college or a trade school. Just gather all this information. Just figure all this out, making calls, asking different things, and just you're going to accumulate a bunch of information, and that will help you walk your plan out. So take advantage of friends that are in the high school. What classes do they need to have? Call your local high school and ask them, hey, what do you need to do required to graduate? Now, I called the colleges that my daughter was going to go to, and I said, do they need to have an actual diploma, or do you accept a homeschool diploma? And it was a Christian university, and they didn't care. Whatever the diploma was, they didn't really care. They just needed the transcript. So it didn't matter to them if it was a homeschool transcript or from a school, from a whatever state school or private school, whatever. With my first daughter, we just opted her to do a homeschool transcript. 2 of my kids, they got a high school transcript from the college because they graduated with their AA. When you graduate with an AA at that college, they give you a high school diploma as well, partially because they were looking at education. And so in the education realm in our state, you have to have a high school diploma from an accredited school. Okay, when it came to transcripts, I did it probably 5 different ways. My oldest daughter got her transcript just from homeschool transcript that I put together, and I'm going to walk you through that as well. My 2 others, twins, we opted for them. They were at the community college, and they give them a high school diploma through the college because they were going into education, and our state is a little funny about that. And so I wanted to make sure they had an official high school diploma. And the other daughter, I looked at her college that she was going to go into, and they didn't care which way. And so we did it a plethora of different ways. So find out, get your resources ahead of time. Don't get stuck at the end and realizing you've messed up, which you haven't. You can always fix it. So first of all, you want to do is know the requirements. The second thing is you're going to explore different options. Do you want them homeschooled the whole way through, all the way through? Do you want them to get college credits while they're in high school? Do you want them just to test out of classes and do like CLEPing or AP classes? Which way do you want to go? Look at your child and figure out which is the best avenue for them. Each of my kids are completely different. And so I had to tailor make kind of everything to fit who they are. And that's a homeschooling prerogative. That's what you get to do as a homeschooling mom. I have several friends that have chosen to graduate their kids earlier than 18 or whatever. And I've seen different videos on this, and I'm just not an advocate of that. I believe that I only get 18 years with my kids, and I'm going to do my best to educate them spiritually, academically, socially, all the parts, physically, so they are prepped to go. I don't want to lose a year of that. I want to use it all the way up to what I can, 18 years, to pour into them. So we do opt to do dual credits, and we get college classes in high school, but they're in my home, and they're homeschooling, and they're still doing it online, and I'm still walking them through the process. And that's the beauty of it. So you have to know what you're okay with. What are your options? And the biggest piece of homeschooling high school is you want to make sure you have prepared them to do everything that God has for them ahead. So you don't want to put any obstacles in their path. Like if they're supposed to go to college or they're supposed to do something, that you've equipped them with everything they need to walk out their calling and their unique giftings that God has given them. So exploring the options, looking at, is it dual credits? Is it just being homeschooled at home? Is it online schooling? What is going to help them be the most successful? The third step is create a 4-year high school plan. So I have a sheet. Well, I'll put it up here to make it easier for you. But basically, it's just 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And this is just simple to write on. And you're going to come up with which subjects and what do you want them to do. Now, I've also in the packet, if you grab that packet, it's free. I also have kind of a sample of what they normally expect, how many Englishes you need to take, how many maths you should take, how many sciences. Now, it depends on where you are. That will change. And so you just have to be aware of that. But I did give you kind of a sample, a guideline. It's not rules. It's not this is the way it has to be done. This is just guidelines. So don't get stuck on it, but that'll help you kind of know, okay, I want them to take English all 4 years. So I'll put in English here. Oh, I think we'll do American history. We'll do old world history, geography. So maybe they're going to do algebra 1, they're going to do geometry, and then algebra 2. And you're going to write in all the different subjects on this form of what you want them to cover. So you make sure that everything gets covered in different years. It's really not as hard as you think to get it covered, because basically each year you need about 6 to 7 credits, and one class is 1 credit. If you look at it, you need a total of around 24 credits. It's all written in that packet. It's about 36 weeks. It's like 180 days. I have it all the details so you can walk that out, but you're going to just plan out your next 4 years, because if you know they need to take 3 sciences, which sciences are going to take, which ones would make the most sense in which order. In the packet, I kind of have just a guideline. So if you're like, well, I'm not sure exactly what English they can take, there's just a suggestion. World literature, you can do American literature, you can do British literature. There's just different ways that you can do it. And you can take algebra or geometry or pre-calculus, and then sciences or earth science, there's biology, chemistry. You don't have to, unless your state requires it. You kind of pick which sciences you want them to take. So there is flexibility in this, but they do require certain guidelines depending on what state you're in. So once you've filled out your form and you've kind of figured out, okay, what classes do I want to take? Now, you can get very detailed in this. I'm going to be honest, I didn't. I just basically knew we used the same curriculum all the way through, and I just followed the curriculum. And then I went from English literature to old world literature, I went to British literature, and we just covered it. And then I went from algebra to algebra 2 to geometry to pre-cal. We just followed the system. We went from biology to chemistry to advanced. So we just sort of walked it through and naturally had it on our list. Now, some places, some colleges, and that's where you kind of want to look ahead at that, is requires you to have it written down, like what did you study in your geometry course, what did you study, or what did you study in your American literature, and what did they do? And you have to write it a course description. I personally have never had to do that, and my kids have gone to multiple different colleges, not all the same one. I gave them a homeschool transcript and they accepted it. And I just wrote down the title of what the class was and how many credits they got. So depending on what you're looking at, my kids didn't go to Harvard, they didn't go to Yale, they went to Christian universities and online universities and University of the Nations. They've done different ways. So you have to just know ahead. So create your 4-year plan. And then from that 4-year plan, you want to stay organized. You want to make sure you have some filing system, something on your computer, one file, and it's not all over the place. That's your homeschool for high school information that has all your forms, all your information, everything you need. All the health records are all up to par if you decide to do a dual enrollment, and just having everything in the same place. When I could look back when the next kid went, I could kind of see what we did, and that made it really much easier. So you're going to want to get organized, whether it's a filing system, digital records, organized, and keep kind of a guideline of what you're doing. And that way you're not having to wing it. You actually have detailed notes. And the last thing is you want to look ahead. High school is more than just earning credits. It's also about creating a space for your student to grow and to mature and to welcome adulthood. You want them to be prepared, not just academically. I have a whole other video on that, but changing the oil, cooking meals and how to take care of themselves and pay the bills. There's a lot in this that you can do that isn't going to maybe be on this fancy form, but you want to prepare. And these years can be some of the best years to explore what they really love to do and what options they want to walk through and what apprenticeships or what school do they want to visit. You get this opportunity to walk them into adulthood. You started as itty bitty babies and now you get to launch them forward. And this is really exciting. It's really honoring, I think, for me to be able to get that opportunity to watch this little person grow into this amazing woman of God or this amazing man of God. But you want to keep your plan with the end goal in mind. What do you want when they leave your homeschool high school? What do you want them to have accomplished? What do you want them to know? You want them to be smart. You want them to be confident. You want them to be clear on what they're walking forward to. And I love the quote, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And you create it by filling out this form and coming up with a 4-year plan. So if you need other resources, click below on that free handout. I'm giving you a high school transcript, a sample one. You don't have to follow this one. There's different ones that you can pay and they'll do it for you. It is pretty simple. So if you're looking at this, the high school transcript, all you have to do is write in English 10, English 9, composition, algebra 1, geometry, whatever. I write S1 is just what semester, first semester, second semester. I'll write A, depending on what they got. And then it's 1 credit for the whole year. They get 1 credit for that class and they'll take English the whole year. So they'll take English 9 in 9th grade, English 10 in 10th grade. I'm just simplifying so you understand. I gave them an A, and that's 1 credit. And then at the end, you just tally up all the different classes. And you just need to know at the end, they need to have accumulated about 24 to 30 some credits. Now, the first one I was doing, I was counting everything she was doing. She was running a cafe for our missions organization. I was giving her business, stuff, and she had way too many credits because my daughter is my firstborn is typical firstborn. So we didn't need as many credits as I thought we did. So just be aware, they need the basics. They need like 6 classes, 6 to 7 credits per year. And so once you figure out you've got English, you've got math, you've got science, you've got social studies, you've got a foreign language, and you've got a couple of electives, you're covered. So it's fairly doable. And in that planner that I have lots of samples. I have some requirements that are some guidelines more. I have lots of different resources. You'll find the transcripts, a sample transcript. You'll find the high school plan that you can print out for yourself. I have different videos that I have in that resource as well, just to help you in this process. Now, I have to say, I was so nervous when it came to homeschooling. I really thought, well, especially homeschooling high school, mostly, not just homeschooling high school. I really wasn't sure if I had it in me to be able to walk them through, to walk them to be successful and to just rise up and have all the smarts that they were going to need to know. And I can say, by God's grace, my oldest daughter is a family nurse practitioner. She went on to get her master's degree, and she now runs a Ready Clinic where you walk in and that's who you see. I have a daughter who became a teacher. Funny thing is, she had never been in the classroom until she did her student teaching and started working in the classrooms. A son who's a missionary. I have another daughter who went and became an accountant, and I have one in college who's my 5th, and she's in college studying to do business marketing. If you're wondering about the whole scholarship thing, is my oldest daughter got academic scholarships because of the Running Start program that we did. It's the dual endorsement program. I could prove that she had a 4.0 or her A's, and so she got the academic scholarship with that. She did the SAT, I think, to get in and get the academic scholarships. My youngest, because COVID, it kind of messed up all the ACTs and all that and kind of got jumbled in there. My youngest, who's at college, she actually got a full ride scholarship this year. Last year, she got the President's Scholarship. And this year she continues the presidential scholarship and she's an RA. So she has her full years completely paid for at a private Christian college. So I don't want you to think because you're homeschool, you're messing up your kids. You're not. My kids have been able to take some amazing classes and attend some really cool universities and different programs that were really geared to their learning style, really geared to how they're going to thrive best in that learning environment. And that's what I want you to walk away from this, is knowing if you choose to homeschool high school, or if you're walking through the process of homeschooling high school and you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're questioning whether you're messing your kids up, if you're going to get this wrong, you're not. If you are staying intentional and you're watching a video like this, I can already tell you're not going to mess your kid up. I remember when my firstborn went to college, and she did it in high school, and it was an online class, and she got an her first A in a paper or whatever it was. And I was like, yes, I didn't mess her up, because God's grace covers us. If we're intentional and we're prayerful and we're pouring into our kids everything that we can. Now, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect and you're not perfect. But if you continue to pour into your child and you tap into who God created them to be, you will be way more successful. I know my kids are way more successful because they were homeschooled. If they'd have been in the public school and in that program, they probably wouldn't be as successful as they are today. I believe because I was able to build their education to really match their characteristics, their skill sets, their giftings, their talents, they were able to thrive in that environment. And one of the things my daughter will always tell people is homeschooling forced her to be resourceful. She had to learn how to learn. And the first college class she took, she attended a few because she was doing nursing at the time. She had to attend a couple of the classes, the chemistry classes and the biology classes. So she went to college, to a local community college. Only one of my children did that, but my oldest did. And she attended and she said, Mom, they spent the entire hour on the syllabus. That's like a 5-minute read. She was so blown away by how much time was wasted in the classroom. She literally sat in the classroom and did her whole page while the professor was there. She just couldn't believe how spoon-fed they were in the university. And so one of the things, when the kids are homeschooled and they've had to teach themselves and they've had to be resourceful and they've had to learn, most often these kids thrive in the colleges because they're used to pushing themselves. They're used to actually engaged in learning because their learning has been purposeful and meaningful, and they get it and they understand most of it. Now, my kids didn't love algebra or maybe some of the sciences we did, but overall, they could understand why we were learning it. This is God's creation, and let's walk this out. Hopefully, you feel more confident. Hopefully, you feel like you can homeschool high school, because I really believe you can. If I can do it, you can do it. And I remember feeling so intimidated, and I don't feel that anymore. And I want to tell other mothers, stick it out, stick with it, because you've gone this far. Don't put them in now. There's so many resources out there. I'm such an advocate of taking college classes while they're still at your house, because it was secular community colleges that they went to. And I was able to walk through some of these sociology classes that talked about gender and just the different lifestyles that don't line up with our belief system. And I was able to walk it out and ask them, what does the Bible say to you? What do you know that to be true? And just have this dialogue with them instead of sending them off to a 4-year university. And I can say I was able to walk it through at home. And by the time they hit the 4-year university, they had 2 years done. They were thriving and did so well in that setting because they had already learned the system and were ahead of the game. So if you want, leave a comment. If you have any questions, I have a plethora of information. I know I just shoved a bunch into this. I just wanted to sit down and have, like, if we're sitting at the table and we're talking to each other. So just get the resources and the information that I have. So check that out in the description. It is free. I spend a lot of hours putting it together because I wish this is what I had when I was starting homeschool. I felt so blind going into it. I bought some big book and it had some paperwork in it, but I needed a real life person that could really talk it through. And I really didn't have anyone that was putting their kids in college or doing whatever it was, because we were missionaries and different avenues that we were on at the time. I've done it different ways and we've been fairly successful. There were times that we've kind of had to shuffle things around, and I was very blessed with the school system. I'm going to be honest, when we walked in to do Running Start, my first child, Running Start is a dual enrollment program with the community college. So we go in and they said, you can't take online classes, you have to come to the college. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really work for us. We were missionaries and we traveled quite a bit. And she was like, well, I don't think it's going to be successful, but we'll let you try. And so my oldest did it and she knocked it out of the park. She did great. And she paved the way for her other siblings. And so by the time I went in with my 4th child to that counselor at the college, she was like, never mind, that mom knows what she's doing. Her kids will be fine. Let her sign up for whatever classes she wants, because we had earned the right. We had proven that we will stay diligent. We will accomplish what we set out to do. And I will make sure they're successful. And so we earned their trust. And I have one more child to go. And I think the counselor has since retired, which is a bummer. But I have full confidence that we will walk this through with him as well. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments, because I'm not perfect. I don't know everything, but I have gone through this avenue 5 different times, 5 different ways. And I do have some wisdom and I would love to share it with you, whether it's CLEP classes. Several of my kids took some CLEP classes. I have friends that their child took like 90 CLEP credits, almost a 2-year degree with CLEPing. They are hard. They're not easy. Some of them are easier than others. I think the sociology is fairly easy. If they're good at foreign language, that one was doable. The US history was a little harder, but doable. My daughter studied hard and got it. I figured if I'm teaching her history anyway, why doesn't she get college credits for it? So we did a history course, and then she clept the history class for it. She had to do a lot more studying afterwards, but for that clepping credit. But there's so many different opportunities out there. There's so many different ways, and I'm starting to ramble on because I have so much information in my head that I'm trying to pour out, and maybe I'll have to do another video, but that will get you started. Everything that I've shared, hopefully, and with the resource in the description, it's a planner that will walk you through kind of some steps to how to homeschool, and hopefully you'll find useful. Now, if you know of another mother that could use this information, please pass it on and share it with them. Like it so I know that you're getting some good information on this. And I want to point out, I also have a resource. It's a book. It's called Intentional Mom, Unshakable Faith. It is such a good resource for you as a homeschool mom. We weren't perfect. We didn't get it all right, but there was so much that God's grace and He taught us as we stayed on our needs and we were diligent and intentional with our homeschooling and with our parenting and with our walking with God in this calling that He's given me, that I put it all in this book. And check that book out because you might find it as a really good resource as well. All right. I know I just rambled on and I give a lot of information, and hopefully you will find that to be helpful. Don't forget to check the description for more resources, and like and share this so other moms can see it. All right, as always, stay intentional, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.